Welcome back to the Real Estate Insider Podcast, where we highlight the people who are out there doing the real work in real estate, not just posting about it. I'm your host, Jared Sawyer. I've been doing mortgages for 22 years now, and over that time, I've seen just how much impact the right realtor can have on a family's life. It's not just about the contract or the commission, it's coaching, it's leadership, and sometimes walking people through the hardest seasons of their lives. That's one of the reasons why we started doing this podcast, to highlight people just like my guest today, Linda, who's not just a top producer, but you hear the word coach, protector, teacher come out when you're describing Linda. On my side, it's exactly how my team approaches lending. We slow things down, look at the whole picture, and try to be a steady voice when life and money gets really loud. Today's guest is Linda. Linda is a real estate mogul, a coach, and an advocate for doing real estate the right way. Linda's been nearly a decade in the business, personally serving over 35 families a year, while also leading a team towards 80 to 100 transactions, and now serving the Willamette Valley Association of Realtors Board. She pours into new agents and clients like a true coach. Linda, thank you.
Hello.
Thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So we're going to warm up with a nice little warm-up question to kind of get into things here. So let's start with your world today. For people who don't know you, for people who have never met you before, how would you describe your role in real estate and what you do on a day-to-day basis?
Oh man. Well, I manage a small team in the Willamette Valley, which consists of 4 other agents. But I also personally am in production and helping clients buy and sell daily, but just day-to-day basis. I just came from a home inspection, so we were sitting there for a few hours, answering phone calls for other agents, trying to figure out solutions for for a buyer that's trying to purchase with a land sales contract, and just getting really creative and solution-oriented ideas.
Great. Sounds like a busy morning.
Yeah.
So you're personally helping around 25 to 35 families a year, and your team goal, you said on other calls, anywhere between 85 to 100 transactions. Why is helping families such an important metric for you instead of maybe volumes or units?
Yeah, that's a great question. And everybody kind of tracks their progress differently. I just really like that 100 family number. And I think we all know a ton of people, and just getting the word out and being able to help people and have our name be passed around as that referral, knowing that our clients trust us enough to refer us, is pretty important.
Right on. And you've mentioned that you've got some newer agents on your team who are already doing more deals than in previous years. What are you most proud of when you're looking at their growth?
It's a good question. I'm most proud of the fact that I know that they're trained correctly, and that they know that the team standard is to be ethical in all dealings. So I train over disclose as much as possible, and just answer your phone. Like, that seems to be
Simple
a
things.
challenge sometimes, but I really hold everyone to a very high standard. And I love seeing that come through when they're talking and coaching their clients on how to approach different situations.
Kind of doing it the Linda way, right? Yeah,
Yes.
perfect. So let's rewind a little bit and kind of get to the ethos of how you really started all this. So how did you even get into real estate to begin with? You know, you kind of told me a little bit about the process when you were younger and your parents were buying a house, and that kind of really piqued your interest, but there's more to that story. Let me hear where this all started.
Yeah. So my parents bought the house that they're still in 2007. I was a freshman, maybe. So I got to be super involved in going to look at houses. And I remember sitting at the signing table for 3 hours, and I was ready for some snacks or a nap. Like, a much longer process than it is today.
Right.
And then my senior year, I did my project on real estate. So I got to mentor the realtor that they worked with, who is still in the business. And I've closed transactions with her now, which is really
That's
fun.
so cool.
And then kind of put that on the back burner. I went and played softball at a local community college. And then started working at Costco, which was a great company. I ended up getting hurt on the job.
Oh, wow.
And I was out of work for like 6 months, and went to real estate school. So kind of the rest is history after that. There's a part 2 to your question. What was it?
Well, no, I mean, that's really kind of the origin of where you started and how you got going. So I think you hit that. So, you know, you went from seeing your folks go through a transaction, which inspired you enough to then do a senior project of all things on it. And then while you're playing softball, working at Costco, you get an injury, and it kind of got opening the door going, hey, Linda, check out real estate. And now, how long have you been in real estate for?
May will be 10
10
years.
years, coming up on that first 10 years. So, once you got licensed, what were those first 6 months like? Because oftentimes that's either where you sink or swim in real estate.
Man, well, I worked at Costco for 10 years and I had a huge sphere and I was so naive thinking like why wouldn't anybody work with me, and it turns out I had no idea what I was doing. So my first few months were pretty quiet, and then I ended up connecting with a really great brokerage that had a little bit more of a team aspect, and I was poured into a lot on how to generate business, how to navigate through contracts, and I kind of went from there and just ran with it. I was able to connect with a lot of like online leads and convert those into transactions and build my database from there.
Right on. So something you shared with me before on our last call that I think is kind of, it's a sad story, but at the same time, I think it's good to talk about, especially for some of the newer agents out there, because you do a lot of coaching and mentoring. And when you were early on in your career, something stood out to you or something stood out to me. And I remember you telling me the story that you were asking an agent for help. Like you got a contract in hand and you have no idea what you're doing, and you go up and they literally shut the door in your face and tell you they're running a business here. What was that about? What happened?
Yeah, I mean, real estate's cutthroat, right? I get that. I, being an athlete and a team player my whole life, I am not trained that way. I was at the first brokerage I started at and literally had probably the easiest question anybody could have asked, and knocked on a senior agent's door, and she said, I'm running a business here, slammed the door in my face, and I knew
Jeez.
I was at the wrong brokerage. That was not my style or cup of tea, I
Yeah,
guess.
no, for sure. So how did that shape you in your approach to business?
Wow, I guess I had never really thought about it, but that's not my style at all. And probably what sparked me coaching and training other people. At a previous brokerage, I was doing onboarding and training for probably about 12 agents at the same time, which I don't know what you know about training new agents, but that's a lot. And so we had
Yeah.
a lot of really great systems and programs in place. And we did like weekly coaching and one on one coaching. Um, and there were some other things that went on. So I found myself at a different brokerage thinking like I can work less and make more money. And then I think it lasted about 2 months and then I started a team. And so it's just in my heart that I love helping and coaching and watching other people succeed.
Seems to be a pretty consistent theme with you, and from knowing you too, you are a coach. You coached Little League for 8 years, and now you're coaching new agents. So what about the coaching process in and of itself just really lights you up? Because I can tell when we start talking about it, your body, your posture changes, you smile more. So there's something there. What about coaching really kind of gets you going, I guess?
I just love like hearing like watching my agents like implement tips and tricks that I've told them that help them succeed. Like the amount of pressure as a coach, like if these agents aren't closing deals, they're not able to feed their family. Like that's a lot on me. So I think it's just really important that we're giving good advice and watching them take it and run with it and do it. They can do it their own way, which is great, but knowing that they're hearing the advice and spinning that and making it a win-win for everybody, that's pretty cool.
So when you see that home run actually get hit and you see that moment with them, what does that do to you internally? Is it kind of like this proud mama moment where I'm like that's it? That's what's going on?
Yeah, absolutely. It is very much mama bear all the time.
That's good though. I think that's really important for you to be able to give your agents. It's not something you had, right? And so you saw the other side of it of, hey, figure it out, door slammed in your face, and now you're able to kind of wrap your arms around them and really help them get their careers off. Let's shift into
Open doors.
what was that?
Is it an open
Open
doors?
doors, no slam doors. Yeah. Open floor concept there in your office, right? So let's shift into a little bit bigger of a picture. From where you sit, what are you noticing up there in the Willamette Valley right now with either buyers or sellers? And how are you training your agents on how to maybe navigate a true seller's market, which hasn't been the norm, and really kind of helping them take advantage of it and win out in the marketplace?
It is such an interesting market right now. I've had buyers and sellers get in multiple offer situations, I think 6 times in the last 2 months, which, right, compared to the beginning of the year, very, very different, but at certain price points. And if you listed maybe even 3 or 4 months ago, your house is sitting on the market stale and nobody's even going to look at it. So some of the things that we're talking about is staging for those stale listings. Like, how can we reignite interest? Staging new photos, obviously price is huge, especially with rates where they're at. Buyers are being very conservative with how they're wanting to spend their money, but also just preparation for like what kind of offer our sellers are going to receive. I don't know that I've written an offer or received an offer on a listing that hasn't had the buyer asking the seller to pay their closing costs and their buyer's agent fees. Those are pretty standard right now. Even if the buyer has $1,000 down payment, they're still asking the seller to cover closing costs. And that's probably to buy down their interest rate and make their payment a little bit more affordable. The other things that we're doing is just obviously speed to lead. Like, that's huge. Follow up, where we have 3 days a week where we're in here making calls to either find buyers for our listings or try to attract new buyers for other people's listings. Open houses. Open houses are tough. I feel like we have a lot of really lazy agents that are just sending their clients to go look at houses, but that's the name of the game, right? Like, outwork, out hustle, and you see the momentum follow you.
Right on. I mean, it's kind of a testament to what you've been able to build there for yourself. So you're now on the Willamette Valley Association of Realtors Board of Directors. That's a mouthful.
Yeah.
What made you want to step into that role, and what exactly does that mean, and what are you doing there?
Yeah. So there's a huge lawsuit against like the National Board of Directors and some clients essentially. And I feel like ever since that, we've had a lot of brokerages wanting to step away from the local association of realtors. And the local association of realtors really does a lot of good for our community. I think every month in the next 4 or 5 months, we have like $5,000 grants going out to like the Union Gospel Mission, other like charity companies. We also have like a huge Christmas party coming up on Saturday. We, at this board of directors banquet that I was installed at, we raised $17,000 to give children Christmas
That's
presents that they
awesome.
wouldn't
Yeah, that's really cool.
otherwise have. And yeah, so Friday we wake up at 7, go shopping, and then go wrap presents. And I'm really excited about that. But I feel like we wouldn't be losing these brokerages as affiliates if we had a better understanding of what all good our association is actually doing. I think that's been kind of like a kept secret for a little while, and we're really working on like making our professional development a priority, offering value and continuing education courses, which I am a huge advocate for. I think education is so important
Yeah.
for this industry. On the government affairs committee, like, what a great opportunity as a realtor to like learn about what's going on at a local level and be able to express that also to my agents and my clients. And then the board of directors is, I'm not entirely sure what I'm getting into quite yet.
But you'll find out.
But yes, yeah, we find out in January. We have a little retreat going on. But I just think it's important to be involved and see the value in what they're trying to accomplish and spread the word.
Right on. I mean, so you touched on education, which I know is a big deal for you. And there's only 30 hours every 2 years that happens with continuing education. What do you wish was different about education in the real estate industry?
I wish that there were, so the 30 hours is required for your renewal every 2 years. And 4 of those, it's changing next year. So I think it's 2 hours of fair housing and 3 hours of laws and rules. But I wish that other 25 had some other required courses like forms. Like, we are
Knowing what you, yeah.
basically like doing legal contracts, and the amount of realtors that we work with that aren't familiar with them, they also change every year, right? Like, they're constantly changing. So I think that should be a required class. I think ethics should be a required class. Disclosure and how to do that. And then I think, yes, of course there should be electives, but there's maybe a little bit more strict on what is actually required of you.
If you were going to teach it all, would you have like a whole course syllabus outlined for it, and kind of going in like, hey, we're going to go through A to Z and this is what we're going to do?
I mean, yes, but it would have to be broken down, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
you can only retain so much information in a given sitting. and actually be able to retain it and utilize it later. But I think even if it's like a monthly, like you have to do this month and this month, or those courses are offered every month, I think it needs to be a little bit more structured.
So we're going to change this up and go a little bit more into business. So let's talk about this last year. I mean, on paper, you hit some solid numbers, but you mentioned it's been a tougher season for you than most. What's this year been like for you professionally?
A lot of growth this year professionally. Yeah. I just had a conversation with one of my agents who has a lot of personal, not even his own, but his spouse's personal like health issues going on, which really derailed his momentum and is having to put his license in inactive status at the end of the year. Realizing and recognizing that that's not a me failure, even though that's what it feels like. That's been challenging. Learning that personal life happens and it's separate from business. That's a lot of growth. That takes a lot of willpower to get out of bed when your life outside of work is not going great.
For sure. I think that's really a testament to who you are. You know, you do a lot for others. You build a company where realtors can grow and feel comfortable enough to come to you and say, like, hey, my wife's having health issues. I got to take some time away from this. That's not a failure. That's a success, because from what you've experienced and what I know about other real estate partnerships in other areas, that's not the norm. You build a real good family culture there where people love and appreciate you. Life happens outside of the transactions, and that's going to come for everybody, right? And I think it's how we navigate that and what we do during those times and how we come out the other side of it that matters the most. And we're sitting here mid-December now, and you've made it through. And on paper, you've had a successful year, and personally, you've grown a lot. So from where I'm sitting, sounds like you've got some stuff figured out. Seems like things are going well. You said digging myself out of that was a real challenge for you. What was the digging out actually looking like on a day-to-day basis? From not wanting to get out of bed and engage at all to being back running on full cylinders.
Yeah, I had a pretty rough breakup in May. It took a lot out of me to stay strong. I knew that wasn't where I wanted to be and what I wanted my life to look like, what I wanted my son to think was an acceptable relationship. Yeah, getting out of bed, making progress on getting my life back. That was huge. And I know God protected me and gave me the strength to keep going. Gosh dang it, Jared. But it was as soon as I could accept and realize that it was God's protection, so many good things started happening. My phone started ringing like crazy. I think I got like 6 transactions like 2 weeks after that breakup. It was intense. And I mean, how do you can't stay in bed when you have transactions going?
Kind of forces you. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that was God's timing. Also, he just knew I needed to keep moving, and I've built my relationship with God even more, and I think my son has seen that. Basically stopped drinking, which has been great. Not that it was very much towards the end there anyway. I just finished 75 hard, so there's no drinking with that. But it's, yeah, I mean, just clear mind, clear spirit, and moving forward.
I mean, it sounds to me like even though it was really tough going through it, you went through a lot of really positive things happened immediately to kind of keep you engaged and focused on the path, right? And
Yeah,
keep you going.
100%.
I mean, and yeah, that is God, and that's God getting a hold of you and saying, hey, I know you're going through this, but I got more in a good way for you. Take my hand, let's go. You mentioned on our call we did before this that you started a daily gratitude journal and getting really back into reading the Bible. What has that done for your mindset on a day-to-day basis, and how's that changed you?
It has been so amazing. Like everything, there's nothing to not appreciate and be grateful for. Waking up, like you don't have to have tomorrow. Like tomorrow is not guaranteed.
Yeah.
But one of the things I like to write in there regularly is that I am grateful for the ability to attract awesome people in my life and to continuously bring in new clients that I'm able to help. And pretty much without fail, every time I've written that in there, I get a new client. And it is so awesome.
That's really cool. And That's a real powerful piece. Writing down gratitude is, it's challenging to do, but if you can be consistent with it, you will see a difference. And from what I understand, you're planning on giving out journals to the agents that you work with for business planning and kind of invite them into that practice. What's kind of your hope of, hey, I'm going to have them do a gratitude journal? What do you hope that does for them?
Yeah, actually, that's so funny you brought that up this morning. I was writing in their journals and I like kind of hid it in there. So hopefully they find what I'm grateful for them about one day. But I hope that they start doing the gratitude journal. I think there's only positive that comes from it and realizing like, yeah, this part of my day wasn't great, but there's still so much to be grateful for. And it just changes your entire outlook and perspective on life.
I think you're right. We're so predispositioned to just look at the 10% negative out of the 90% positive that we had on a day-to-day basis. And our brains, for whatever reason, will just focus on that. So I think having a visual representation and an account of the whole day to go back and look and be like, oh, okay. Felt weird, but it actually was a pretty good day. I
Yeah.
think that's a smart approach. And then that really plays into your coaching and overall mothering that I think you have for your clients, like, because you're teaching them through your own struggles how to overcome that and what's worked for you. And I think that's real and authentic and really just a testament to who you are and how much you truly care. For someone who's listening and maybe they're going through a season, and things just seem really, really hard. Maybe not the exact same details, but that heaviness is there and that weight's there. What would you want them to hear from you?
Give it to God. He put you through it for a reason, and it's not to go through it alone.
That's awesome. That's awesome. All right. We can move on from the heavy stuff here. So as you look into the next 6 to 12 months with your business, what matters the most to you? You mentioned you're adjusting your personal goals around 25 to 30 families and then on to 100 transactions for the branch and what you're working on. By your definition, what would like a great year be for your team?
Well, you asked what matters the most, and I think what matters the most to me right now is just surrounding myself with good quality people uh, who have like-minded goals, which is to help people as positively as possible, whether that's through real estate or through some other charity event that we're doing. I went through 3 pretty extensive trainings in the last 2 months, and one of the instructors took about 6 hours for her to like open up and like start actually instructing rather than just like reading the textbook. And the other instructor who taught 2 of the other courses was just phenomenal. Like she came in, had a lot of energy, it was spunky, brought her own twist to it. My coaching Linda was like, I can do this. And I think that's where we're headed next year is learning more about what that takes for me to start teaching at a higher level, not just my team.
Coach Linda, out to help the world of realtors here. I love it. I love it. All right. So, last question before we wrap up. Years down the road, way down the road, way into the future, we're all sitting there at your celebration of life. How do you want to be remembered? How do you want people to talk about you when you're gone?
Oh, I just want people to know that I have a good heart and that everything I do is done with love and through God.
I love it. That's beautiful. It's been really, really great talking to you. I appreciate how transparent you are. I know a lot of this has been really hard stuff, but Linda, I think it's important people see who you are. I think people identify with that more so than just talking about, I hit these numbers, I had these awards. Seeing who you are authentically, I think is really, it's you. And that's ultimately what we could hope for is to showcase you. Thank you for coming on today. Listeners, thank you for joining us. Please like and subscribe for more in-depth inside real estate knowledge. Once again, I'm Jared Sawyer. Goodbye and take care.